Hello?
Hey, Ken Campbell.
Yeah, David Chadwick.
Yes, sir. How's it
I'll
going?
be damned.
Yep,
So, and you're calling me from Baldy,
that's true. That's true. And you're in where are you?
Boulder.
You're in Boulder too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Boulder. My wife Catherine and I have a house in Crestone also
Is
that
that
we bought a
right?
long time ago. So we spent some time down there. Well, I wanted to say that earlier this afternoon I listened to some of your music.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that 76 times around the sun.
Ah, well, thank you very
I could.
much.
Oh yeah. When did you turn 76?
Uh, this year, February 9th.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Actually, the song was written 70 times around the sun.
Oh, and then you just recently changed it. Yeah. Huh.
Well, I
Oh,
just
that's
changed it
interesting.
for that recording.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
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 Well, thank you very much. That's uh, a review that I will treasure. Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
Good.
that's one of the uh, that's the jazziest one on that group. Now, leaving
Mm-hmm.
such mundane things, what do you what do you do in what are you up to in Boulder?
Well, I have retired for a long time. I ran a landscape design and construction business for close to 30 years,
Is that right?
but I've been retired now for 13 years. So
Oh, wow, pretty
I'm,
good.
yeah, well, let's see. My wife Catherine and I have been into acting. We've done some, been on stage with a local theater group, community
No
theater, not
kidding.
professional.
Wow,
Yeah.
tell me about that.
One, well, one recent thing we did was, and this is for a different theater group actually, but have you ever heard of the Laramie Project? There was a case that became famous, and actually, Obama actually issued a proclamation on the 20th anniversary of it, where this guy Matthew was he was a gay guy, and he was brutally killed in Wyoming,
Oh
and it
yes.
became
Oh yes.
quite a case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and a theater group did it, wrote it and did it, and our this theater group I auditioned for and I got the part or got a couple of parts in it. Did this play with it was very powerful, like an audience of 80 sitting in the round up on the stage. We had to
Yeah.
cap it at 85, I believe, and it was quite powerful. And I did well, actually I did three parts, but I did
In the
the
same evening, wait a minute.
crazy.
In the same evening, you had three parts
Yeah, yeah.
at different times, I assume.
Well, I'm not that skitsy, so I had to separate them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
So anyway, the one was the Reverend Fred Phelps, who became he was the pastor of this Westboro Baptist church, and he used to go around to funerals for
Oh
gay
yeah.
people and talk about how
Yeah.
they deserved to die because the military was doing this and that. Anyway, I
Oh
played
yeah.
him. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I came on the stage ranting and raving, hellfire and brimnation about gays and whatnot.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
terrific role. Oh yeah, that
oh, it,
guy's
yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. There's an interesting video that Michael Moore did, going around with a bus with a bunch of real flaming gay guys, almost exaggerating that flaming gay thing. And he would go wherever Phelps was, and these guys would get off the bus and start dancing around. And Phelps was just scared shitless. He would back off and keep them away from me. So at any rate, the whole project was interesting. Yeah, there were some very touching parts in it, and it was quite the experience to do it. But that's one of a few things, and COVID kind of knocked things out there for a while, and now I don't know when we're ever going to get back into it full throttle, but that's been a big thing I've been doing. And then prison work. I've been going to maximum security prison, and I've been doing that for over 20 years now. And
what does the prison work entail?
Basically meditation from a Buddhist perspective. And I try not to make it religious in that sense.
Yeah.
But,
right.
We call it Buddhist inspired, but I'm not signing anybody up for Buddhism with a capital B or anything like that.
Right.
And I go in, I've made a good connection with a couple of these guys, and, some of them are never going to get out. They're in for offenses that are a little more than jaywalking or whatever. And so, they say 70% of them are never going to get out where I go.
Oh, is that right?
It's a very interesting experience. Yeah. I do. I sit with them for a while, do a little meditation instruction once in a while, give a little talk, and we have a discussion. And I have a lot of fun doing it.
How many will be in the group?
Small group, 6 to 8.
Yeah.
It's hard to. Yeah, it's just not that popular. But
that's all right.
It's really. I don't mind. I mean, 15 or 20 would be nice, but I have a good connection with these people, and they come every time, and I just really like doing it. So,
Yeah. I've always noticed that disempowered people don't tend to flock to something that in essence offers nothing.
That's right. Yeah. I'm not offering them salvation. Yeah. I can't absolve them of their sins or anything.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Sometimes it used to be that there'd be a meeting next to us at the Christian group, and they'd be singing hymns, and there'd be about 40 of them, and I'd have 7, and they seemed to be having a good time, and that was fine. But the 6th or 8 who came to mind wanted something else, so it's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another thing I've been doing, and sort of hanging out, go down to Crestone. I've become a student. Well, I've been a student for over 20 years of Sony Rinpoche. And my wife and I have been, until COVID hit, we were retreat managers for in-person retreats that he would do in Crestone. And we go down there every so often and, do little retreats or hang out, take walks with our dog and whatnot. Nothing really heroic, nothing all that heroic practice-wise, but...
Do you know which teacher, which group Angie Runyon is involved with there?
No, I've heard she was around here. I've never run into her. It's funny. I hear about people who I used to know at Zen Center who are around here that I've never run into. Yeah, so I really don't know. Yeah.
Well, so many people who are involved in serious practice really don't have, they don't get around. They I've really noticed, I've never been like that, but I've certainly noticed it at different practice centers and situations.
I tend to get around more myself.
Yeah. So,
I'm far from a monastic these days.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
uh-huh. Well, so when did you come to Boulder?
I came, to Boulder.
Or whatever, you
Yeah,
know?
okay. Yeah, I was thinking about when I came to Zen Center. I came to Boulder first. I came to visit around Christmas time of '72, and I decided to move here in '73.
Yeah, about
Um,
the same as Dennis White.
yeah, he came just shortly after that, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
might have come in 74.
It
Yeah,
was
I think.
'74. Yeah,
Yeah, right at
yeah.
the first of 74.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, we've been friends for over 50 years.
Yeah. Well, why
Yeah.
don't you go back? You know, I like to go backwards or forwards with people. It
We
doesn't
can,
matter.
yeah, we can zigzag all over the place. It's fine with me.
Well, let me ask you, when did you first, we'll go see how far back we can go. When did you first, where does your spiritual path begin?
Hmm.
When was your first inkling that there was something
Uh,
more or
well,
deeper?
yeah, the first inkling would have been in the very early 60s, 61 or so, eating peyote, I have to say. And that was an
Yeah.
inkling of, I was living in the dreary suburbs in of LA County, uh, and dreary it was, and it just woke me up to something else. And later using the psychedelics had its own distortions, but still, it definitely, and I still say that it woke me up to something else.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, and that led me to going to Mexico and Huautla de Jimenez and eating the mushrooms and meeting Maria Sabina, the curandera shaman, and uh, and then at the end of that Mexico trip, beginning to do meditation in '68. I was still in Mexico in Zero Wayne. I had left Huautla for the last time, and was hanging out there. The
You'd
idea
left
was that
what? You'd left what?
Huautla de Jimenez. That's the place where the mushrooms were the most prominent
Uh-huh.
place where people were going to eat the hongos, the psychedelic mushrooms.
Hmm.
So I left there and I left Zero Wayne in Mexico, which is near Pátzcuaro, and it was a real little village. And Pat, you remember Pat, my ex, Pat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she actually was more instrumental in introducing me to meditation, and I began to sit a little bit. And I
You're saying that
remember
was 68.
that was early '68,
Yeah.
maybe late spring, early summer of '68. I began doing some meditation. I remember her talking to me about Zen Center, and I thought, well, meditation might be okay, but I hear there's, gurus and stuff like that. I was very reluctant to get involved in any kind of organized thing.
Yeah.
So finally, when I finally went up to Zen Center, and that was influenced by Pat also, uh, December or January of '68, '69, living in Santa Barbara. I drove pretty much all night to the Zen Center.
Wait a minute. Let
Uh,
me ask you: are you from
sure.
Santa Barbara or?
No, I was born in San Francisco actually,
Huh.
but I had lived in Santa Barbara for a while. I'd only been back from Mexico a few months that time. I mentioned that I started sitting in Zero Wayne in '68. Um,
Yeah.
so it was 6 months or 8 months, 6 to 8 months later that I went up to San Francisco and I drove all night and I went to an early morning sitting. This was Bush Street, of course, then. And I went in the little shrine room and I did a period of sitting, and I really liked it. And afterwards, there was this little Japanese guy who was leading. He seemed to be leading the sitting, but he also asked if anyone would volunteer to help him with cleaning the zendo. So I volunteered, and the first thing was he showed me how to put together the vacuum cleaner. And he had this real joyous thing about him, like it was like he was doing it for the first time, or whatever, like a kid opening a Christmas present or something. He just had this real joyful look. And he put the vacuum cleaner together, and then I don't remember much of the details of cleaning up, but we did it and kind of bowed to each other and went outside. And outside the shrine room, I saw this little notice. It seemed to be protocols on shrine room and everything, Zendo, and it was signed Gasho. And I thought, I'm not much into teachers or anything, but I really like this guy Gasho. Well, of course, I find out later that was Roshi. Yeah, Gasho. It was a nice name for a little friendly Japanese guy,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first contact with Zen Center and with Roshi. And I got a place, rented a place on Hayes Street. I was about a mile away, and turned out it was kind of a crack palace, which I didn't know at the time. So I had some pretty interesting people living in it with me. I mean, I had a room, of course, but it was quite a place. I think it was Hayes Street. I could be wrong on that, but it seemed like I walked a good mile, and I started going to both of the morning sittings I don't think I missed one for a year. It's almost like I was afraid to miss or something. And finally, after a year, I wasn't feeling well, and I thought, God, it's okay, maybe miss one, But there was something about that first encounter that changed things for me. And, I started sitting, and I became a little bit tight about it, but I did it. I was so undisciplined or something, I needed to kind of overdo the discipline for a while, I guess. It's the only way I can put it. Yeah. Anyway, the next time I saw Roshi was a Dokusan, and it was shortly thereafter. It must have been late spring or so of '69. And I remember walking in the room, and I was kind of startled because I didn't know what to expect. I sat down. I didn't know if I was supposed to say something or he was. So I kind of rummaged through my mind for any kind of line, because I had rehearsed a bit, but I forgot all my lines. So after sitting for, it seemed like a full minute, he just looked at me and said, "Your mind is still split." And I thought that, wow, that was really interesting. Just like, and it wasn't like accusatory or anything. It was, this is the diagnosis or something like that. Your mind is still split. And I saw how it was split, I was halfway in there and halfway somewhere else, and not really committed to anything or working with my mind or anything, but there was something starting to happen. So my mind was still split. And then I still remember, and I still, even though I don't sometimes go against a lot of what he taught, there was one little practical piece of advice he gave me in relation to mind being split. He said, when your alarm goes off in the morning, get up immediately. Don't do snooze. He didn't use the term snooze, but don't dally around or, get right up. And it's interesting. I can't not get right up when the alarm goes off in the morning now, and I very often think of him when my alarm goes off.
Yeah.
That stuck with me. Such a simple little thing. Get out of bed when your alarm goes off.
Yeah.
Nothing more spiritually profound about how to work with my mind or anything. Just that. That was very interesting.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
when you say he said your mind is still split, that's something I've never heard before. That's unique. But when you
Yeah.
say he said get up right away when the alarm goes off, that
Yeah.
that he said over and over. That's when the bell rings, get up. They'd say at
Oh,
Tassajara,
uh-huh. Yeah, I've
you
heard
know.
it in relation to the bell. Yeah, I know. So that's not really any different. Yeah. You
Yeah,
specifically said alarm clock, but yeah, it's the same advice essentially.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I must admit it influences me
mm-hmm.
every day.
Mm. Yeah. 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 It's such a simple, direct thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Well,
So
yeah. I don't know. Do you want to hear any more or what?
yes,
Okay. Well,
I
I
want you to
jotted
leave
down some things.
no turn unstoned.
Okay. Okay. That's a good one. Um, yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago, I wrote something out for Judy Cohn, the wife of, I don't know if you know Sherab or Michael Cohn. He died recently. He was a translator and the author of The Path is the Goal
Hmm.
uh,
Well, I
from
know
Trungpa
of
Rimsha
him.
teaching. Yeah. Anyway, his wife was putting together a book of people's experiences with teachers, and she called me up and says, I've got all I can use of stories about Trungpa Rinpoche, but I know you were a student of Roshi, and do you have any stories? I said, well, I wasn't one of his close disciples, but as it turns out, I had a lot of contact with him that did have a profound effect on me. And so I wrote some stuff. She hasn't published it, and I don't know if she ever will. It doesn't matter. But
Would you send it to me?
if I can find it, I looked for it the other day. I only had it in an email, and I guess it's not there anymore.
Well, ask her
Uh,
for it. I want it.
okay. All right. I'll do that.
Yeah, either you have it or she has it. Now this gives you a purpose in life
Okay.
to find that.
Yeah. And well, it's interesting that you say that because with the 50th anniversary just happening, the Chronicles did some things, and I really wanted to write something, and I didn't, and I felt funny that I didn't. But I jotted down some stuff, and I jotted down some more. Your call came in a very timely, or your email came in a very timely way for me. So
Mm,
it spurs me. I've been doing some writing lately, and about my time in Mexico and all that, and Roshi keeps coming up because there's things that happened that didn't sink in for 30, 40 years. I mean, really sink in. I remembered them in some way, but there's lessons that, well, one I can tell you about.
yeah.
This is skipping ahead. When I was at Tassajara, my last training period there, it would have been, well, the summer he died, 71. And I had a Dokusan with him, and I had an agenda to ask if he would okay me staying for another training period. And he was sick, and we didn't know. Nobody knew what he had at that point. But I went in and I did the 3 vows, and he had me do them over again, and he explained to me about holding the palms straight up and down because you're supporting the weight of the Buddha. And my
Right.
thought process was like, oh yeah, I'll do it again. I really want to get to this Dokusan. I mean, it wasn't quite so crude in terms of the mental chatter, but it came down to that in a way.
Hmm.
Like I wanted to get through the formality of doing these 3 vows, and
Right. And
he
get
had
to
me
the
do
real
it.
thing.
Yeah, get to the real thing because I got an agenda here, Roshi. I mean,
That's great.
you got these quaint little things. But at any rate, so I did it a second time, and again he corrected me, and then I finally did it a third time, and I could tell it wasn't entirely satisfactory, but I guess 3 was the magic number. So I sat down and we started talking, and he said he wasn't feeling well and he was going to have to go up to the city pretty soon. And he asked me how I was doing, and it was just very sweet. And then I had to spring on him in a very nervous tone of voice, well, I really came here. I'd like to, talk to you about staying another training period. It's really been good for me, and or whatever I said. And he just said, well, I understand, but I won't be making those decisions. And he told me the process and all that. And I said, oh, okay, thank you. And I left. And it wasn't until later that I realized how, I don't know, the first time I realized it, I actually started crying. How beautiful he was, and how I missed the point so much, And it was, literally 30, 40 years later when I started seeing what he was doing, was showing me about those vows, was so much more important than anything he could have said about whether I was going to stay at Tassajara for another training period or not.
Right.
So
that's an unusual story too.
Mm-hmm.
You getting somebody to bow again? I don't remember hearing that. That's
wow, huh?
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say it either. But 3 times he did that. Yeah. Maybe he saw in my mind how anxious I was to rush past
right.
it. Right. Because I was.
Right.
I wasn't. Ultimately, I wasn't respectful enough of that
right.
ceremonial thing or whatever. Yeah. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I'd say essential to Suzuki Roshi's teaching was that each thing is not leading up in terms of practice, in terms of its fundamental reality. It's not something that's leading up to something else.
Yeah,
It's the ultimate realization right there, what you're doing now.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. I appreciate hearing that. That's good.
Yeah. Boy, just before that, there was a thing at still at Zen Center, where he came in the front door. Reb was his attendant, and I was getting ready to leave, and the door opened, and he took a couple steps in and was looking around, and he had a look on his face that scared me, actually. I never felt anything like that around him before, but it was like radical no one home. He didn't have that benevolent thing with the kind of sometimes tinkling laughter, but it wasn't harsh. It wasn't the opposite of benevolent. It wasn't anything. He just stood there. It was like 360 degrees, whatever, for just a moment. And it stopped me in my tracks, and it brought up some kind of fundamental. There was a fear and an embarrassment. Maybe it was an embarrassment of exposure or something like that. Because at some point he looked over to me and he bowed. This was after it was probably only a few seconds of that look that scared me. Yeah, I didn't see it since. It wasn't directed at me, because it was after a few seconds he looked over, and I think it would have bowed to anybody who was around. I think maybe there was one other person in the background.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, that sticks with me, because every so often I can clearly see the image of him coming in the door and Reb off to the right of him, and me off to his right also, further closer to the hallway, the hall, the big hall, and closer to it, and just that. I don't know. There's nothing. I don't know. I can't really say any more about it. That's just what it was.
Well, I can say something about it. Is that
Yeah.
that wasn't only something happening with him, that was happening with you.
Yeah.
The fact that you could perceive him that way at that moment meant that you also were in a receptive state to perceive that. You know, if I'd been standing there, I might have said, "Oh, there's Roshi again." You know,
Yeah. But that's one impulse that comes up that I often had. And small talk or something. Well,
yeah, but
I
you weren't.
perceived.
You weren't. You didn't have the small talk impulse. You saw deeply.
But I was scared too of it.
Well, that's a sure sign that you
Yeah.
saw deeply.
Well, who knows? But it was a profound experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then I got one here. I got a couple more.
Keep going, man.
Taking him shopping. This is a lighter one. I was this is at Page Street. I was down in the basement where the big washing machine is or was.
Yeah.
I was on cleanup, and he walked down. He looked around the room. Then he came up to me, and he said, "I need to do this was evening time. I need to do some shopping tomorrow morning. Would you be available to take me?" And I got real nervous because I had this real small little Japanese car. I don't remember the name of it. Foreign car. I don't know if it's Japanese actually. And it didn't have a reverse in it. And I was kind of nervous. I said, "Well, Roshi, my car is really small." And he said, "Oh, that's okay. We're Japanese. It won't be a problem." So that did it. So I had to do it. And the next morning, I go up to his room, as I remember, and he and Okasan came out, and we walked out the car, and the car didn't look all that appealing, and Okasan seemed a little bit taken aback, but he was like, we're going on a really fun trip here. She sat in back, he sat in front, and we went around. I remember we went to the what's that hardware store, Soko?
Yeah, there was Soko and Seiki.
Oh, is there two? Well,
yeah, Soko and
Seiki. One really big one.
They were on the same block there, Post Street.
One of them was more on the corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that was Soko, but it could be the other way around.
I think I remember Soko, and maybe I'm not familiar with Soki. Anyway, let's say Soko Hardware.
It's bigger. It was bigger. But, you know, that might be, Seiki might be something I created in a dream. So.
Okay. Well,
I know Soko's there. Right.
Okay. And I think this really happened, so it was Soko.
Yeah.
At any rate, so he goes there, and that one, we both waited in the car for some reason. Then we went somewhere else. It was all very uneventful. And then we went somewhere else in this, and he was pleasantly chatting along, and I was driving with my knuckles tightly on the steering wheel, and Okasan was always a little nervous, chatting to him about something or other. And the last stop we made was at this big, well, it wasn't that big, but it was kind of a shopping center, a lot of parking spaces. I made sure I got a space where nobody was parked behind me, or so that I could get out because of not having a reverse. So he shops well, and I went in with him this time, and I have no memory of that shopping. But I come out, and there's a car behind us, and in front. Or wait, what? How did he go? No, there was a car. There was a car in front, and I couldn't really back. I couldn't use the gear shift. Yeah. And so I had to put it in neutral and get out and push. He jumps out and pushes with me. Okasan's yelling at him, about how we shouldn't have done this or something,
Right,
and he's like, he's smiling and laughing like this is a best time he's had in a long time. So we're both pushing this little car, which is very easy to do. I could have pushed it by myself, and he pushes it, and he's having a great time, but I am not having a good time, and Okasan's not having a good time. She's acting like like she's kind of like a protector in Tibetan Buddhism,
Right.
with a capital P, and
Right.
and just like guarding him, and she's just really alarmed when he gets out of the car, and he's laughing like hell. So we push it, we get back in, and he starts chatting away, and I'm like white knuckle on the steering wheel and nervous as hell. I can barely talk. We drive back to Zen Center, and Okasan practically jumps out of the car, and he gets out, and I walk part way back with him. And he thanks me and said what a good time he had, and maybe we can do it again. And, and I said, oh, yes, I would love to. My tone of voice probably didn't indicate I would love to. But it was just, I experienced it as being a beautiful experience now, but I was too tight to really experience it as free-flowing the way he did,
Yeah.
But I think about that every so often.
Yeah.
It was just fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I remember, then I remember a couple of things later.
Let's hear them.
Being an usher at the Mountain Seat ceremony, and seeing him come down the stairs with his son steadying him, and he had this grayish, greenish color in his face, and I could see that he was very, very ill, and it was very sad.
Yeah.
And I just stood there and bowed to him, but I could tell that he was very sick, and then I was amazed later the amount of energy he was able to muster for the ceremony. So that, and then I remember the day he died, the morning he died. I was at Tassajara, and as I remember it, he died on the first day of Sesshin at Zen Center. Is that correct? And it was the fourth day at Tassajara.
Right.
So we were in the middle of Sesshin, and it was so. I mean, none of us were incredibly surprised at the announcement, but Dan Welch made it. And right after the announcement, we got up and began chanting the Heart Sutra in Japanese. Oh, must have been for half an hour, and every so often you could hear somebody sobbing. And the chanting was so, it just penetrated, the onomatopoeic aspect of it, and the rhythm, and the everything, the meaning, the rhythm beyond meaning, and the sound. Oh God, it was just powerful. Seemed like maybe half an hour, and then we just sat down and went about the sesshin as everybody knew he would want, and from what I heard, it was very much like that in San Francisco, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else? You're doing good, man.
Well, those are the stories when I had more direct contact with him. I remember one interesting thing was I remember getting instruction on how to do gasho, and whoever was doing it was almost military style, and the palms together and the elbows straight out, and the fingers completely together and all that, and that was very interesting. And right after that, and this was at Tassajara, Roshi was sitting with us. At the end of sitting, I see him get up, and his fingers are completely interlaced with the gasho, in a very
Yeah.
gentle, soft sort of way, very different from the way that, militaristic gasho was demonstrated to me. I
Right.
thought that was pretty interesting, and a lot of this stuff was like that for me. There was almost militaristic aspect that was presented in some quarters in some ways, but what you got from Roshi was very, very different. Quite different. I remember him walking down, between us, and the softness and all that of the softness, and we just glance up at somebody once in a while, and it was just beautiful. Oh, and then I remember at Page Street there was a time, not Page Street, at Bush Street. I remember a couple of things very strongly. He would, I'm forgetting her name now. Oh, Trudy Dixon.
Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot her name. Seeing her lying on a radiator in back, meditating, lying down. This was the late stages of her life, I assume. I never got to know her, but I remember getting up from the sitting and walking out and just seeing the beautiful expression on her face. And she looked like she weighed about 70 pounds or something. And it was just incredible. That inspired me. She inspired me.
Yeah.
Then I remember Roshi. For a time, he would stand in the vestibule as we exited. I think this is the evening sitting, but I'm not positive. As we exited, we would all pass by him just outside the shrine room and bow. And there was some funny stuff there, but that didn't seem funny to me at the time. But I would try to present myself to him because, we would each of us would bow. So I would go in like a real serious Zen student. This is my presentation, I'm going to show him how disciplined I am, and I would do my bow just right, and I would perceive a kind of a funny look on his face, though it probably wasn't there. So the next time I would try to be real casual, go in like sort of like, hey man, how you doing? I mean, I never said that, but kind of like being real casual, And I thought, oh, that didn't work either, And I never got it right. I tried all kinds, and I thought, well, the middle way, of course. You're not too tight, not too loose. So I'm going to go in and show him that I'm not too tight and not too loose.
That's great.
Yeah. So, that kind of thing, that goes on for a long time.
Wow.
I'm still not completely free of that one, but that comes back to me vividly. I mean, that's one of the things that's very vivid. Yeah. Very vivid.
Yeah, no, he did that after every sitting at Sokochi. He might have continued it some at Page Street, but I don't remember it. But I wasn't at Page Street much. I was at Tassajara. Do you remember if that was? Do you remember if that practice was continued at Page Street?
No, I think it wasn't. Because
I think it wasn't also. Yeah.
I was one of the first to move in, and I was sitting regularly, and I don't. No, I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty sure it wasn't. If it was, it would have been for a very short time.
Right.
Oh, I have another memory that somewhat involves you. I'm pretty sure, and I'm not sure. What was that monk or priest name who came over from Japan? He was kind of a trainee. And Yasu, and I'm not talking Tatsugami, of course. I'm talking, he was...
well, what year? First, tell me when.
Oh, it would have been if I'm remembering right, it would have been when you were sitting next to me when this thing I'm about to describe happened.
Where?
And I think, I think Tassajara,
All
and
right.
it would
So
have
you're
been
talking about Yoshimura.
Yoshimura. Yeah, I know that for sure now. I just couldn't come up with it.
Ryogen Yoshimura. He was no trainee.
No?
No. He was. I mean, he was there to assist in the in the teaching, and but he didn't have the status that Katagiri did.
No,
But
no.
he was like he had his own temple in Japan, and
Yeah.
well,
Did,
I don't know if he
did
had
you,
it yet. It depends on if his father had died. Yeah, yeah. I've been to it. It
Yeah,
was in Hokkaido. Um,
yeah. I got to know him a little bit in San Francisco. I thought I really liked him.
yeah.
But he was, anyway, the story, and I'm remembering this with you because, I'll tell the story. He was carrying the Kiyosaku, and I had the impression he wasn't used to carrying it. And we, at least I, was sitting towards the front and facing out, the stone wall facing out, the entryway, the same side as the entryway, and facing the stone wall and close to the front. And that's where he started after he picked up the Kiyosaku.
Right.
So I bowed, and he hit me, and he missed. He hit quite high, and and I kind of reacted, and then I did it again, and he didn't do it very well on the left side either. And I sensed this kind of rumbling next to me, and it was you laughing, not out loud, but kind of just kind of like chuckling to yourself, that I think my reaction was kind of funny because it really startled me, and I was trying to react as though everything was completely normal. So,
it's hard for me to imagine Yoshimura being klutzy with the stick because he was so suave, He was so smooth and dignified and friendly and I mean, he was with me. I think some other people perceived him as being very serious, but he was great.
It might not have been Yoshimura, because I'm remembering it as some Japanese guy who, and I remember now. I'm starting to remember Yoshimura later, but it was somebody who hadn't carried the stick a lot, and it was almost like you were laughing that I volunteered to do that or something. I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know who, but was it a priest from Japan, who had robes on and?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, it wasn't Kobun. It wasn't Kobun.
Oh, no, not at all.
Well, anyway, yeah, it sounds like it wasn't Yoshimura. I can't imagine Yoshimura being klutzy with the stick. He was rather
from
polished.
What I knew of him later. Yeah, from what I knew of him later, I can't imagine anyway.
But
anyway,
there were some others, very rarely, but I just can't remember.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, my
I
memory
apologize for laughing at your pain there.
Oh, it was worthy of laughter because I think if I'd have been sitting next to me, I would have laughed too. Because I was trying to be so whatever afterwards, No, I never. I laughed later, not too much later. Actually, I laughed too. So, any rate, I just brought that up. My memory's foggy. I'm pretty sure it was Tassajara, and it would have been. One would be 70. One of the training periods in 70, and the other gosh, 71.
Well, you did
Couple of training periods.
yeah, you did both of them in 71.
Yeah.
I mean, judging from what you've said.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah. And I did one of them in 70. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
I think
I mean, I could.
Ryuho Yamada. Now, Ryuho
Oh.
Yamada came in the like maybe even in the summer, yeah, of
Mm-hmm.
71, and so he was down at Tassajara a little while then, and
Mm-hmm.
I can see Ryuho doing that, especially when he came. He was sort of nerdy, uh, and but he had his own temple too. I don't know if he had it
Yeah.
yet. Yeah, he didn't have it yet because his father hadn't died.
Yeah.
And when he first arrived, he was sort of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, nerdy. He was more like a young monk type thing. But
It's sounding familiar now.
yeah, he
But
went
I'm going to
on.
leave the. Go ahead.
Well, he went on to like totally pick up on the hippie thing and got into
Uh-huh.
acid and grass and free love and was really having a great time in San Francisco and with total wild man. He went and he shiatsu Suzuki.
Oh.
That's what happened is he knew shiatsu, so he was grabbed up to as soon as Suzuki went back from Tassajara to the city. Ryuho was shiatsu him every
Oh,
day.
uh-huh. Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
So he was at Tassajara a little while after he first came, but he was
Yeah.
needed in the city to help Suzuki. Yeah, he and I became very close friends through the years, and wow, yeah,
Anyway, that's not
yeah.
one of the ones that I had written before to Judy Cohn, nor am I going to include it when I write to you because I'm not sure, and wasn't going to pinpoint any particular person anyway. I only brought that one up because all of a sudden I had a memory of you sitting next to me
Well,
at that time.
well, why don't you tell me everything else that you weren't thinking of including?
Oh, I can't do that. That's funny.
Or tell me one thing. What?
Yeah.
It doesn't. Any memories you have of back there, Zen Center, would be gratefully received.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh gosh.
Anything that comes to
I
mind? Anything you feel moved to say?
Well, I started thinking about when I first came and people, Tommy Dorsey.
Yeah.
I became friends with him. He was one of the first people I met because I think I had before Pat and I moved in to one of the places across the street at Bush Street, one of the apartment buildings. Before that, a short time in the dormitory, and Tommy was there. I think he was managing it or something. I can't remember. It was a very short time, but regardless of that or the details, he was one of the first people I met, and we became really good friends, and yeah, and when I remember having a really interesting conversation with him when first time I went back in '74 and talked to a lot of people there, and I remember talking to him about why I had a connection with Trungpa Rinpoche and didn't have a connection with Dick Baker Roshi, and he responded in terms of his feelings of connection there, and it was a very
What did he
forthright.
say?
He just said that he feels like Dick Baker's legitimate successor to Suzuki Roshi, and I said, well, I can't deny that, but the connection isn't there for me.
Right.
And the
But
same
that's
thing
traditional. That's what they say
Yeah.
in Japan. You don't, Americans tend to say, "Oh, he's a good teacher. He's a bad teacher. Or he's enlightened.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
not enlightened." Right? In Japan,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
talk about whether you have the connection or not.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? It's sort of like
Yeah.
saying that what they have. It's called en.
Mm-hmm.
Go in,
Oh,
go
yeah.
in, honorable
Uh,
in. Tidak got to go in. There wasn't. Oh no, that's Indonesian. Sorry, the tidak ada. There was. That's funny. I didn't have the N with this teacher, but I had it with the other
oh.
teacher, and that way it's not at all putting down the first person.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. 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 I had the same experience later with Sakyong Mipam Rinpoche, the son and successor to Trungpa Rinpoche. Just
what
it
was
wasn't
the
there.
same experience?
Yeah.
What
Yeah. Essentially.
experience?
Just not anywhere near that connection that I had with Trungpa Rinpoche.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So yeah, yeah, just that. Not no saying that he wasn't worthy of something or other.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was that happened there also. You know, but it was a good conversation with Tommy, and he respected what I said, and I certainly respected him.
Yeah.
And I really liked the book Street Zen, featuring Tommy. That was great.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
But those early days, I wasn't very open to people. I was so guarded.
Hmm.
And I think I was just starting to open in the later years there. And one of the best things that happened with being involved with Trungpa Rinpoche and coming to Boulder was blowing some stuff open, so to speak,
Yeah.
that I didn't feel could have happened for me if I'd have stayed at Zen Center.
Well, let's
Yeah.
tell about your transition from Zen Center to Trungpa's
Oh, yeah.
group and
Uh,
him as a teacher. How did that
yeah.
come up? How did that come about?
Well, let's see, around 1970, I would see Rinpoche and Roshi having tea. Oh, before that, at one of the training periods, Richard Arthur came. Did you ever meet him? Kungadawa, Richard
Uh,
Arthur. He was one of Trungpa Rinpoche's early students, and he sent him to Tassajara.
Kunga. Oh God.
Kungadawa. He was with
Yeah.
him when the Sadhana Mahamudra was written, one of the very early students of his, traveling with him in Tibet and Nepal. And
Ah.
he sort of got a little crazy, some would say
Right.
power hungry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
Oh.
got sent to Tassajara, which was actually a very good move on Trungpa Rinpoche's part, because I had heard all kinds of things about Kungadawa, or as he was called then. Later we just started calling him Richard Arthur. He died a year or so ago.
Now,
Um,
where's he from?
well, I don't know, back east somewhere.
All right, he's from
Uh,
America. He's from America.
he may have been born, he had a little bit of a British accent, come to think of it.
Uh,
So,
yeah, I think he might have been. Yeah, I think
yeah,
you might be right there.
he's,
God, he was at Tassar in like 1970, right?
I think it was 70. Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty sure it
and
was
I was
70.
there in 70.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and
Uh,
I don't have, uh, uh, I can't bring up any memories of him. You're
well,
mentioning him just,
it could be that it was 71, but I
well, I was there in
think,
71 too. Uh,
but either way, you don't have a memory of him, yeah.
I
Well, he
know,
was
I
pretty low
remember,
key.
I just remember you're reminding me, Kunga. I go, oh yeah, Kunga, but I can't bring
Yeah.
anything forward. So, you know what that means? that means he wasn't causing any trouble. He wasn't
That's
being
correct.
eccentric. He wasn't being crazy, or I'd remember.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember talking to a couple people, I can't remember names, about who knew of him and said, boy, this guy's a real problem maker or something, or going to be a problem or something. And he definitely was, and he was very, very low key and even humble. And I was interested in Rinpoche at the time. I think I had been to one early talk. I'm not sure, but I was interested in him, and so I talked with him a little bit. But the early memories were seeing him at Zen Center having tea with Roshi, and I was really impressed at the two of them together. And later I marveled at how sedate Trungpa Rinpoche was sipping tea, as opposed to the way I often saw him later. But then I remember all kinds of events. I remember the funeral and Trungpa Rinpoche coming.
Yeah.
And then I heard that when he heard that Roshi had died, he started doing prostrations and saying things like, "I just lost my best friend." And then I remember him at the funeral ceremony. Do you remember him going up to the casket?
Yeah.
It was to my mind and in my memory, the ceremony was very formal, and he walking up there and having trouble walking because of the paralysis on the one side, with the kata and tears in his eyes, and
With
I
the
had
what?
the impression
With the what?
kata, the white offering cloth. It's called.
Yeah.
It's a Tibetan kata, khati, and draping it over part of the casket, which I'm not sure if it was appropriate to do in terms of the ceremony. And he seemed in real mourning, and I almost had the feeling like he was almost getting into the casket or something,
Right.
And it was
No
like,
kidding.
wow.
Right.
Yeah. And I was just so impressed, It was such a contrast with the formal Japanese, which I respected fully, the formal Japanese too. There was something very beautiful about it. But I was impressed at that. And then that night or the next night, there was this center at Shotwell Street. Oh, and I started going on Sundays when there was nothing happening at Zen Center. I started going over to the Shotwell Street Center and sitting one of their nintunes. That's what their all-day sitting was called. And Dennis and I would go sometimes. And I remember seeing some people who had been to Boulder and come back, who were students of Trungpa Rinpoche, and talking about Boulder, at those all-day sittings. And I was getting more and more interested. And then this day after the day after this the funeral, I went to Shotwell Street in the evening, and there's Trungpa Rinpoche sitting up there, and he's in this strange mood, and he's drinking Colt 45 at the time.
Harsh.
Big Colt.
God,
Pardon me?
I remember that. What a
big
terrible taste.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, later he started drinking cheap sake, so. But at any rate.
That's better.
It's better, yeah. But any rate, cans of Colt 45. I don't know how that happened. Later he got into drinking Johnny Black and stuff like that. But
Colt 45 is like a ghetto drink.
Yeah, malt liquor, so it's higher in alcohol than ordinary beer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's sitting up there, and I just saw he was incredibly brilliant, and he was talking about Roshi in an abstract sort of way almost, and I was incredibly attracted, and I thought, boy, this is something else I haven't quite seen before, except in Roshi, but it's such a different expression of it, and I don't see the I don't see the softness or the compassion or something. And I wasn't convinced in terms of Trungpa Rinpoche, but I was like really drawn to him. And then the next thing I remember was at Zen Center. You may remember this. There was I think it was maybe after the cremation, there was a big event where a bunch of us are sitting in one place, and he was sitting up in front. He wasn't on a shrine or anything. He was sitting in a chair with no one around him, and he was just giving a little talk. There were people behind him and in front of him.
You're talking about in the back of the dining room.
I guess that's what it was. Yeah, it had to be that.
Yeah.
So, my memory on my picture is sometimes almost surrealistic, but clear at the same time. And it would be off to his right, closer to the entryway or exit or whatever, were the administrators of Zen Center. And at any rate, what I remember then was him giving a little talk, and at some point he says, and Roshi was my friend. And then he started crying, and tears came down his cheeks, and he just sat there, not trying to wipe away the tears or cover it or stop crying or anything. And it seemed to me like for a full minute, and then somebody from behind him, a young woman, brought up a handkerchief, and either he did it or she wiped away some tears. I think she handed it to him, and he wiped away some tears and just sat there for a minute. And then he turned over to the Zen Center bigwig, so to speak, and said, there is really nothing to protect or defend. And that's the last thing I remember. And then it was really powerful around that time. He was doing talks over at Shotwell Street for his crowd.
Yeah.
And I went to a few of them. I had an interview with him, and I went, I remember sitting outside. It was in this big room, and I don't even know where it was. It was shortly after the events I described with the funeral and the other event. A big room he was in. I remember sitting outside it for a while, after my scheduled interview, because as usual, he was running late.
Hi, right.
I mean, it was only about half an hour late, which is pretty punctual.
That's early.
At any rate, yeah, very early. Yeah. And it was early evening, too. But at any rate, the door opened, and whoever was the attendant invited me in. And I swear that he was sitting about 100 yards in. And my memory is probably exaggerated, but he was sitting in a simple chair with a table in front of him. And I walked in, and I had to walk that long distance with him watching me. And I think he knew who I was by the time I got there. But I walked 1 foot after the other, barely. I was so self-conscious walking there. And I got there and I sat down, and I didn't know what to say. And I don't remember how it opened with him saying something or me, but I finally said, I would like to come to Boulder and be your student. And he kind of nodded his head in a non-committal way. And then he asked me some questions. And he asked me about my involvement with Roshi, and also what's my current involvement now that Roshi's not here. And I said, well, I'm doing meditation, Zazen regularly, and I'm in charge of this child care center. And Pat and I had split up, and Kelsey was still alive, and he was part of the child care center, and Pat took off to Boulder. I sort of introduced her to Trungpa Rinpoche, and she took off to Boulder, which is consternation to me. And anyway, that's a whole different story. But at any rate,
leaving you to take care of Kelsey.
Well, we were going to trade every 3 months, and at some point, I didn't want to give him up after 3 months, and that led to a whole other thing with her asking. I got really attached to Kelsey, and I was mad at her for leaving, and I wanted to just keep him. We had sort of agreed on a 3 month back and forth, and she, and this is later than the interview, but she tried to get him to intervene. He said no, he wouldn't. But anyway, I told him about the child care center and everything. He said, I think you should stay here for a while. And I wound up staying another year and a half. And finally, in May of '73, I went up to him and I said, oh, no, I didn't say anything. He had just finished the talk. And he looked over at me and he says, come on to Boulder. And wow. And I said, oh, okay. And Henry Schaefer was there. And he said, we want to give you a scholarship to come and to either Marpa House, which was the residential housing. There was 50-some people there at the time. And then the center, of course, was in Boulder, but there was also the land, which later became Karmazong, and now Karmazong is a city center. It's now called Shambhala Center, the land, and
that was called Rocky Mountain
Dharma Center.
Right.
For a minute, I couldn't even remember that. I can't believe it. We always called it just RMDC.
Yeah.
But for a minute, I actually blanked out, and I still usually always call it RMDC instead of Shambhala Mountain Center. But at any rate, I blacked out for a minute. But at any rate, that was the interview, and that pretty much finished with the interview. And then a year and a half later, he says, "Come on." So I come and I talked to Henry Schaefer. He was kind of managing things in Boulder at the time. And he said, Rinpoche wants you to be in the city, which I was kind of wanting to go to the land, but I think he felt it would be good for me to jump into the turmoil with people and all that. And I think it was. And it was like Wild West at Marpa House, helping run that place. It was incredible. People were getting drunk and hitting the building with their cars, and you can't imagine what it was like.
Is that? I remember Allen Ginsberg, like seeing him in some communal apartment or building.
Yeah, he never lived at Marpa House, but he did live. And I remember being over there one time in a apartment house with a bunch of people. Yeah. And then he was a little bit involved in Naropa. Yeah. But that was my story of how I got involved and came here. Next year, I got involved in helping with Naropa. Naropa started in '74 with 500 students.
Pretty good.
And
wow.
Yeah. They came from all. Baba Ramdas was here. And a lot of them were his students, and that was very entertaining. That was something else, man. It was quite a smorgasbord of stuff happening. I liked it.
Yeah.
And Rinpoche gave some incredible talks. There's a set of 11 talks from Naropa that they're videos, and I just can't believe it. How good they are. Some basic meditation talks, And he had this incredible quality of talking about the basic mindfulness or shamatha practice, but the formless aspect was there. The Vipassana formless aspect was there right at the beginning without him even talking about it. It was just masterful. Yeah. So I have, I have comparable memories with him, of course, that I do with with Roshi.
Oh, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Oh boy, well, mm, well, two of them I can. Well, one of them is very powerful and hard to. When my son died, he did the ceremony, and then he.
How did your son die? And where was
He
that?
died. He died at the 75 seminary. I was not there. Pat was there with him. I had driven to the seminary, and he was going to be there for a while. No, I went there on the last day. He was going to go with Pat for a visit to California and come back. And I was going to spend the night, but I didn't for various reasons. And he died that night. He announced he was going to die at some point.
What'd you say?
He announced that he was going to die at some point. From
your son announced it?
Yeah. He started having some trouble breathing. He says, "I'm going to die." And
wow.
Then at some point, he
and
went
how old
into,
was he? How old was he?
6. He turned 6 in October, and he died on November 20th. And he didn't want me to leave, and I left. And I always have this expression on his face and everything. The last conversation was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And then Roshi, not Roshi, I'm mixing up my Rinpoche did a little poa ceremony, the exiting of the consciousness. He asked me to find the Brahmarandra, the crown, and put my finger on it. And then he did the ceremony, which ends with the Ri, H-R-I-H. It's a ceremony of consciousness. It's a symbol representing consciousness. Part of Vajrayogini sadhana and others. But Ri, H-R-I-H, and it's pronounced like Ri, and it's like a dissipation into space. And he did that in a piercing sort of voice, and it just froze all of us, and I think they could hear it throughout the place. And then we left, and I had asked them to be present when they put him in the big furnace. And when I went out, they said, "Well, we can't really do that." And I was starting to insist on it. I just wanted to see it through, you know. There was that kind of thing. Rinpoche said, "Don't press it, let it go." And he was leaning up against the wall, and I was leaning up across him, and he said, "I don't know what I would do if that were my son."
Mm.
And then we just stood there for a while, and then we left. And I was in this incredible space for a while. It was another interesting thing around that time. It's more than interesting. Pat and her friends brought his body back from the seminary, which was in Aspen at Snowmass, it's called, outside of the city of Aspen. Brought his body back in the back of a station wagon. There was no autopsy, completely no legal stuff happening. We never got a casket. She brought him back, and I was I was in some kind of a hallucinatory thing. I was imagining him being wrapped in blue, like in a nursery. They put the
Yeah.
veils in blue, and I had this imagination of him being in blue, and for just a moment, I mean, it didn't pervade the whole thing because I realized he'd come back dead, but somehow when they opened it, the back trunk, and I saw him for the first time, I just let out this cry, and I said, "Oh, Kelsey," and I got in the back with him and just kind of curled up with him, and we went to the center to take his body. I just carried it upstairs, and we lay it on a blanket, no casket or anything, just lay it on a blanket in front of the shrine, and I just sat with it most of the night, and then was suggested that I should probably go home. But Rinpoche was still in Snowmass, and he called me on the phone, and he said, I'm still in Snowmass. Do you need me? Are you okay? I said, well, I don't know about okay, but I'm going to make it. And he said he woke up at dawn and he knew something was wrong. And he said then later people were freaking out all over the place. And he wanted to tell me two things. One is he wanted me to be strong and give support to all these people coming back. Wanted me to give support to them. I just thought, later when I realized what he was doing, it was just amazing. And the second thing was he wanted me to go to the funeral place and make all the arrangements myself. And, which I did. We've really gotten into some stuff here. And well, there was a kind of gruesomely funny thing that happened on that. I went to the funeral parlor, and the guy was kind of a salesman, and he's telling me that his furnace is so efficient that it gets up to 2,000 degrees, and it completely disintegrates anything. Here I am talking about my son's body. He's giving me a sales pitch on his big furnace. I could still see the guy, like he was selling me a vacuum cleaner or something.
Oh, God.
The efficiency, how it's going to pick up the dust or something. It was amazing.
Oh.
I mean, God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess one other story, because this is getting a little much, a whole different aspect of him. This is in the community room at the old Zen Center above what's now the Boulder Bookstore. And we had
now, wait a minute. Have you left the thing about Kelsey?
Yeah,
Well,
actually, there's a couple of things. Go ahead.
No.
Because I was leaving it, but
yeah.
I just thought of something else, and you're going to say something, so go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to say, how was Pat?
That was the sad part of it. We were so estranged. We're actually friends now. She was in Boulder for a long time, and we used to have lunch at least once a month. And now we do Zoom or regular phone calls once a month.
Oh,
and
that's
email
good.
every so often. But at that time, it wasn't like we were feuding or anything, but we were completely estranged. When we went up to RMDC, for instance, to do some ashes up there, we went up in separate cars with different people, and it was almost like her attendance and my attendance, and we didn't communicate very much, and she was annoyed with, do you remember Bonnie Miller?
Yes.
Yeah. She was a little bit overly exuberant in terms of helping organize things, or at least from Pat's perspective, because Pat is very reserved, and so that was a little bit of friction. Bonnie jumped in, and in her way, it was maybe a little over the top, and
Yeah.
Pat being very reserved and pretty tight, you know. So that was an interesting thing. But I remember digging a hole to bury the urn up at the little cemetery at RMDC, and standing around, and it was like the two of us were doing two different things for sure. And that was later. That was sad, you know. Yeah, later that was sad. But speaking of Bonnie, I remember not Bonnie Berry. I just saw that she died recently. Barry Mason, is it?
Yeah.
Redhead?
Yeah.
Is it Mason?
Yeah.
I just saw in your website that she died earlier this year. She was one of the people who was involved in childcare at Tassajara, and she really, really loved Kelsey. And I went out for the Tassajara reunion, and when I went up the steps at Page Street, she was one of the first people I saw, and she came walking over to me and telling me how sorry she was to hear about Kelsey dying. Of course, it had been a pretty damn long time, but sometimes there's just no time.
Well, everybody at Page Street was aware.
Yeah, I know. I heard. Yeah.
I mean, everybody at Zen Center was aware. Yeah, it was a real tragedy.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, it's still, well, like I say, sometimes there's no time. I can live it like it's still happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember getting the phone call, and Dennis White made the call, and Jeff Ellis, you probably wouldn't know him, was kind of holding him up. And his words were, "Kelsey may be dead." And I was stunned, and I said, "What do you mean?" or something, and talked to me, and there was this incredible feeling of this is happening throughout time, or has happened and is happening throughout time, and I'm just now, I mean, at this moment, I'm experiencing it. I don't know how to say it any differently.
Wow.
Time, yeah, it was like things, there's a continuum where it's like, I wouldn't even say this has happened before and experiencing it. It's like, it's different from that even. It was a very profound experience. Yeah. It just, and I was in a very altered state for quite a while. First thing I did was go over after the call. I went over to I guess it was a typewriter or early word processing machine. I started writing a letter to my mother, which is interesting. She was working for the government in another country. I think might have been Nepal actually, and I started writing a letter to her as I don't know why, the closest I could come to handling the emotion of it, you know, expressing it. Yeah. Anyway, around that time, and boy, an outpouring of support from people around here. And I heard a couple of things from Zen Center. Pam Chernoff, wow, she sent me was it by email or I think, no, it was a regular mail.
That's before email. Way before email.
It would have been. Yeah, I must have just been on a typewriter.
Yeah.
Well, she sent it to me in regular mail. I remember unfurling it, and I don't know where it is now. It was the circle in space. It represented what Roshi. Was one story I heard at least of what Roshi said to, I think, Dick Baker when, and I don't know if the story is really true or not, but he was asked, "When will I see you again?" And he drew this like circle.
Right. No, that's true.
Him.
That's true. That's right before he died.
It must be. I've heard it.
That's right before he died.
That's what I thought. That's the way I heard it. And so she sent me a calligraphy of that. which was, yeah, it was, I don't know, it seems like I've seen it since, and I don't know if it's supposed to really represent what he did or not, but it reminded me of that, of hearing that. Anyway, she sent that in the mail. She later came to Boulder, and she actually worked for me in my company for a while. And then, she got killed in an accident.
She died in an automobile accident. Didn't her car go off the road?
Yeah, between here and New Mexico, or maybe she was in New Mexico. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she worked for me in my office for quite a while.
That was a long
Got
time
very
ago.
close.
That's like 30 years ago or something, right? Or 20
Yeah. Well, almost all this we're talking about is we haven't talked about anything any more recent than 30 years, have we?
Well, when we first started.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But Pam died, I don't know when she died. It could have been 25 years ago or 20. I can't.
Yeah. It would have been before, I know the place I was in, it would have been before 85, for sure.
See, that's 35 years there.
Yeah, that's over 35 right there.
Oh, my gosh. Right.
Yeah. Or
36.
it could have been just a little after I moved out. It could have been closer to 30 years, come to think of it, but it wasn't much after 85 at the most.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was, I was so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Boy, some of the emotional stuff's a little bit of a ringer.
Yeah.
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 I was surprised you could keep talking.
Yeah, I almost broke down a couple of times. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have one lighter story then. Maybe we could wrap it up. I'm not in a hurry, but it seems like it may be time to wrap it up. With Trungpa Rinpoche. I can't think of anything more with Roshi. A gathering in the community room. Oh, I started to talk about it, and then I jumped. A gathering in the community room at the old Karmazong, which was above the Boulder bookstore. And that was where the meditation hall was and everything, and small room off to the side. We used to have these community meetings. And there was a time when he would have a student give a little talk each time. But this time was kind of a general meeting and a little bit of a party, I think. I can't remember the circumstances. But he came in, and usually we'd often have a military uniform or a costume of some kind. And I was sitting right near the door. I was sitting on a table with my legs dangling off of it, and there's someone else to my left doing the same, and other people milling around, some seated. And he came in, and he had this big sword dangling at his side in a sheath. And I don't know why I did this, but I said, Rinpoche, is that sword real? And he pulls the sword out real slowly, and he comes up to me, and he sticks it in my side, just barely touching me. And then he starts doing a little bit of a push, and he's watching me to see when I'm going to react, And it just keeps a little bit of a push. He's far from going through me, but I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling nervous, but I'm trying to show how would you show if you were enlightened and you didn't give a damn?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. So, once again, not really being fully who I am. And this little sword thing's kind of showing it. And at some point, I practically going against the wall, and I kind of sense he's not going to push. I didn't pull away drastically, but I sensed he wasn't going to do it, and but I wasn't sure. And so he stops at some point, and he slowly puts the sword back in its sheath. He walks away, and after a few steps, he said, be careful what you ask. You might get an answer you don't want. Asking about whether the sword was real. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I didn't, after he died in 87, I didn't have a teacher for quite a while. But that's, then I get into a whole different thing. Yeah.
What was that?
So, well, I mean, this this would start from 1987. I mean, just briefly, after 8 years, I went over to Nepal and met Toku Ujin. I don't know.
Oh,
if you
no
know of
kidding.
him.
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
And that changed everything. He's Soni Rinpoche's father, Mingyur Rinpoche's father. He gave me instruction in Dzogchen practice, and I never doubted that. I never doubted it since then. Although there were times when I thought I was doing Dzogchen practice, and I was, doing comfortable type daydreaming, for sure. But I never doubted the efficacy, you might say, of the practice.
Right.
And I met Soni Rinpoche there, and one of the times, we had, Catherine was with me, and we had this audience with him, and he invited us to come to everything. It seemed like the fact that we were students at Trungpa Rinpoche opened doors in Nepal with all these teachers, Trungpa Rinpoche, Tangpa Rinpoche, and all that, and all of those. At any rate, we invited us to all of his audiences. We were only there for a little over a week, but it was so intense, and that time we were only there for a little over a week. And it was just incredible. He had this form where you would ask a question, and that would be the topic of his talk, and there'd be 6 to 8, never more than 9 or 10 people in his room, where he kind of lie there, propped up on a pillow. He was getting old, almost like he was liquid poured on his bed. It was just amazing. And he would give these teachings, and there was this guy who used to be head of the Shanghai Secret Police, who was one of his students and benefactors, who came in for an interview, and another guy who was a Russian rock and roll star, and a little bit in his entourage, and they were they had a serious question about this teacher Oli. I don't know, in Tibetan circles he's known as a little bit of a problematic person in terms of a teacher. You might say charlatan if you wanted to be blunt. And they were asking, what can we do about him? And Toku Ujin, as he would usually do, is say, you can combat it by presenting what's real, and not freaking out about it. And there's nothing you have to do about it. Let it fall of its own weight, and you don't have to defend anything. And just continue doing what you are. The guy was starting to develop a Dharma group, and he was just reassuring him that he didn't have to freak out and be defensive about some guy who was teaching false Dharma.
Right.
Because it didn't really threaten him. Yeah. You don't have to, come in on a white horse defending the Dharma against him.
Yeah.
So that was good. And then I met Soni Rinpoche, and later became his student. In Crestone, I asked him to be my teacher, and I told him that I'd been about Toku Ujin and how I had such a powerful experience with being introduced to Dzogchen practice and felt like I really connected with it. But now after 7 years, I feel like I'm a little bit of a counterfeit, and I'm finding a cozy, it might be formless, but a little bit of a cozy space.
Yeah.
I later, Soni Rinpoche later told me, well, we call that sometimes stupid shamatha or something like that. And, just kind of finding a place where there's not a lot of turbulence, but there's not. It's just a comfortable little plateau,
Yeah.
and you can get through your meditation quite easily. So at any rate, so he started working with me a little bit, and then I started going down to. And later, he started coming to Crestone more and doing these 2 week-long retreats every year. And there were 3-month-longs. In '08, '09, and '10. So we're getting real recent now. He did month-longs. Since then, he's gone back to just doing the short retreats. But we did these month-longs with real intense sitting and different topics. One of them was Gampopa. The other one was something from the text flight of the Garuda, and another one, the 3 words, to strike the whatever, the perfect thing. I'm not even getting the English now, but it doesn't matter. And at the end of one of the retreats, I think it was the Gampopa one, there was time left over after we went through a whole text, and he wanted to hear stories about teachers, and there was some about Trungpa Rinpoche, and then somebody said something about Roshi, and at some point he said, I want to hear more stories about Roshi. And I'm remembering now that going back to when I first met him, the interview I had with him after getting instruction from Tulku Ujin in Nepal, an interview with Soni Rinpoche in Nepal, he asked me about my background with practice, and I mentioned Suzuki Roshi, and his eyes lit up. He says, oh yeah, that's almost the same thing as what we're doing here. And I thought, well, good. And so then at any rate, the next time Suzuki Roshi came up, he was asking for more stories, and we had two full days at the end of the retreat with stories. And I wound up telling some of the story that I told you earlier about kind of my transition from Roshi to Trungpa Rinpoche, the story of after the funeral and all that. And people had all kinds of stories of Roshi, and I had no idea that some of these people had contact with Roshi, you know. It was the same with Trungpa Rinpoche, too. People who had at one point been part of Karmazong or Shambhala Center who had scattered all over, you know.
Yeah.
And I never knew them, but they had strong contacts with Trungpa Rinpoche. And then these Zen students, you know, and it was very interesting. He really wanted to hear more and more stories about Roshi. And then he's told some stories of quoting Roshi or Zen stories, and more and more recently. And he's asked me a couple of things about different stories that he's heard. One is the story about you're all perfect just as you are, but you can use a little improvement.
Right.
And don't feed your monkeys, but don't entertain them too much. You know, and a few other things, and different things that other people brought up. You know, I'm not remembering specifics now, but it's very interesting, and it brought back for me, as it often does, really strong memories of Roshi. And you know, the thing is that I didn't really develop. I was so guarded most of the time at Zen Center that when I went back to the Tassajara reunion, people I talked to, I connected with them a lot more freely after all that time than I had back when I was at Zen Center. You know, it was just, I don't know what it was. I was so tight almost all the time. It was just starting to change. It was starting to change at the end. So, but I saw a lot of other people as being very tight too. You're not one of the ones I saw as being tight. But
I don't remember you. I don't remember you in any negative way as being tight or anything.
Yeah.
You were quiet.
Yeah, but I was quiet. Yeah, I was quiet. guarded. Yeah, maybe I wasn't particularly tight, but any rate, yeah, I was going to say when I went to the Tulsa reunion, I had such a good time with a lot of people, and felt I was conversing with them, and I felt like they had gone. Maybe I had gone through some good changes, but I also knew they had, and yeah, and talking to Mel, you know, I never had anything but good feelings about Mel, but I never opened to him or really, expressed myself with him. There was much more open conversation with him.
Well,
and
yeah,
Dan Welch,
good.
who I often felt a little bit of conflict with in terms of approach to things. Had a really good time with him.
Yeah.
Also when at Crestone when you were there. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he was there that night. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think he drove me down there.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I drove him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe.
more likely I drove him. Well, it could be either way. Who knows?
Either way, yeah. Anyway, that was a nice evening, and he had a bad accident, and I think he broke his neck, and had to recuperate for a long time. And he had a falling out with Dick Baker and left there. I'm not quite. Do you know where he is now?
Yeah, he's in Santa Fe.
I thought I was going to guess that.
Yeah. I connected him with Chuck Hoy, who's now Charles Hoy.
Yes, he is, Charles. Don't call him Chuck.
Yeah. And so Charles has seen, he got together with him, and Charles and his wife, and gotten together with Dan and his mate there, and gotten along quite well. And they sent me pictures, and yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Dennis had some contact with Dick Baker also that was positive.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm talking about Dan Welsh.
Oh, of course you are. And I had still gone over to Dick Baker. Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize when you were talking about Dick.
No, you're right. I was mainly talking about Dan Welch, but then I brought up that he'd had a falling out with Dick Baker,
right.
And then I started thinking about Dick Baker in another regard, and I jumped my track. We were talking about Dan, and
I had the same thing with Dennis.
Uh-huh.
I had the exact same thing happen with Dennis. And Dennis was saying how well he got along with Richard Baker now, and for years because of coming to Crestone, and yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think a lot of us have mellowed, calmed down, different things as we got older, and this brings up Suzuki's statement that he'd say we practice Zen because. And then he'd say different things at the end, There wasn't any one. But one of them was so we can enjoy our old age.
Oh, I never heard that one. That's quite good.
Oh, yeah. Lou Richmond has used that. And because Lou has a focus on spirituality and aging. And
I gathered that from something I saw on your site. I just kind of, I want to go in more. I hadn't looked at it in a long time and saw some things I hadn't seen before that I want to go back to and see. Yeah.
I just got some broken links on Lou's site sent to me in an email today. I really appreciate it when people do that. Yeah, so I fixed them. A certain amount of my time. Cuke.com is so big that it's got a lot of deferred maintenance, and I'm always, putting Band-Aids on it and correcting things. Yeah, and I'm waiting for artificial intelligence to come along that can do it all for me.
Yeah. Well, we might be getting there.
Yeah.
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 And of course, it's lacking a little something. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been all most surprisingly entertaining and enlightening.
Well, I went into spaces I never expected to go.
Yeah, you did a good job, man.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. I appreciated it. Very touching, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you bearing with me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I really feel, I'm doing so many things. I really can't keep up. And I look at each one of the things I'm doing, and I think, maybe I should put this off for a while or stop doing this. But I really feel, sometimes I think that the best thing I'm doing is, doing these podcasts, because I get to hear what, people have to say, and I get to reconnect.
Yeah.
I get to reconnect with you, and I get to hear what you have to say. And I try to stay out of it as much as possible. And I like that. I like it because there's less me and more you.
Well, I must say you do a very good job as an interviewer. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the second review I've gotten from you. We started off with one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I don't give them gratuitously, but and that's all you're going to get tonight is just two.
Oh, that's good. Those two are. I'll highlight in the. I don't think I have a page for you on Cuke.com, but I'll highlight. I like to put quotes on top. So
yeah.
Well.
What you wanted me to send you that email is the way to do it? You mentioned early on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll find that, or it would actually be fairly easy to reconstruct. I think I was
Do it.
more fluid verbally tonight than I was writing it, but I think there's some things in the writing that will come out that I skipped over or didn't remember. I don't know.
It would sit down and do it right now, or as soon as you have time, while it's fresh on your mind.
Yes, I think I could do it tonight.
Yeah.
I'm a night owl, so I got plenty of time.
Well,
you're 10 hours later, aren't you?
I don't think of it that way. Let's see. No, I'm earlier.
That's a funny way to put
later.
it.
Right. I think of it as earlier. But you know what I do?
Yeah.
I think, America has this time change that's so irritating.
Right.
I think, okay, right now and I can never remember which one is the savings time. I guess we're on daylight savings time now. In the summers.
No, we went off of it.
Oh, okay. So daylight savings is the other half of the year.
Time.
All right.
Yeah,
and
this
is regular time. Well, the way I think of it is that you're an hour earlier than we are half a day earlier.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah. Well, from my standpoint as an American, it's just about 9 here. Of course, we center everything around the way it is here. 9 here, that would mean 15 hours. It's just coming on.
Oh no,
there,
not an hour. I mean 3. It's 3 hours.
3, yeah.
Yeah.
New
York
is
an hour now. And I talked to Richard and Alice Asprey recently, and they were just 12 hours, right?
Oh,
They were 12 hours different. So really, I think you're like 15
no, it would be-
hours behind.
Are they in Halifax or New
Yeah,
York?
yeah, they're in Halifax. So they're in a
Then
time
you're
zone.
Right, 3 years.
They're in
hours.
a time zone earlier than New York, and
Yes.
you're and then Texas, where I'm from, is the next one, and then you're the next one, and then California.
You got it, man. You got it.
So we're
You talked to
15
Richard
hours
Now it's real. Yeah, 15 hours.
ahead of you.
You talked to Richard Now it's just recently?
Yeah, I put up a long podcast with him, and I put up Dennis's on Monday this week.
Yeah, I saw it. I didn't. You with that Richard Now you had a picture of them. I saw. Is that the one that? There was a list of people, and that's where I saw Barry Mason with a picture that she had died. I saw a picture of Richard and Alice with somebody, I think maybe their son, Noah.
That's right. That's right. No in between them. That's the. Oh, thanks for reminding me. I would like a recent picture of you, and I would like a then picture. If you can go back to the Zen Center days. Do you have anything?
I'm not sure. I wasn't having pictures taken then that I remember. I never had it.
Well, I wasn't either, but there's pictures of me.
Yeah, well, maybe they had more reason to take pictures of you than me, because I don't even remember having my picture taken, except maybe a group photo somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But I don't even remember that, or where to look for it. I can get you something recent.
All right, send a recent one. That's the most important one, really, because that's the one that goes with the podcast. The one where we have then and now, that's on the Cuke.com podcast page, where we list all these. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see if I can find some. I mean, the only older ones I have are like early Boulder, so that would be after.
Yeah, as far back as you can go, but early Boulder would be good. Yeah,
I got some baby pictures, David. You want them?
I think that's going too far back.
Too far back. Back. Okay.
Hey,
yeah.
And
okay.
Why don't you ask Pat if she'd be interested in being a guest?
I will.
It's a lot hard. Women are much more reluctant.
I think she might be reluctant. I actually have I have a Zoom call with her Friday, and I will. I know she got was mainly here. She got disillusioned with organized religion, you might say, and
good. I'm going to hear about it.
Things. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
I know.
I love it.
Yeah.
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 And yeah, definitely. Oh, I can understand that.
Yeah, I figured you could.
I have no trouble with that one.
She left the community. She left the community here I'm not part of the center here anymore, but she, long before I did, left.
Yeah. Well, I'm an alumni of the San Francisco Zen Center, and I'm an alumni of the Friends of Shambhala. I always loved dropping by and visiting, and I've spent a lot of time back then while Trungpa was still there visiting. I've been there,
Oh, I remember you one time, David, very briefly. I don't know where. Were you still with Diane then at one of the times you came? This goes back quite a way.
I don't. Well, no, I don't. Well, wait a minute.
Don't think so.
Wait a minute. I remember.
But she came also, so it might have been. She came at one point.
She might
very brief contact with both of you.
Yeah. I remember being with her in arriving at Denver in '73 after New Year's, and then going to Aspen and skiing and stuff. I think that's as close as we got to Boulder.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the times you came, I remember you. I think we just talked briefly at somebody else's house, maybe where you were staying or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd stay with Halpern or with Jack Elias. Alan, I'd see Alan Marlowe, but I swear I'd see in the course, sometimes I would be there a week or so. I'd see 30 people I knew from Zen Center.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah. Yeah. You probably see more of them than I do. Yeah.
I always enjoyed being there. And I've seen more when I came back to go to Crestdown Mountain Zen Center and, have visited Naropa and, anyway, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And
pleasure here also, for sure.
Yeah, that was a good talk. I appreciate it.
Okay.
You take care. Stay in touch. Okay.
Okay, David.
Thanks a lot.
You take care.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, thanks a lot, Ken. Really appreciate it. Incidentally, we mentioned something like he wanted to write something down and send it. He did send it, and I posted it on Cuke.com's What's New blog today. So that's, blog spot. And I can't remember the blog address. Just go to Cuke.com and hit What's New. And that'll take you there. I guess that's it. I would like to give a shout out to to our sponsor before we say goodbye. It seems only right. So I'd like to give us very sincere thanks to you, dear listener, for keeping Cuke Archives and Cuke audio podcasts and all the stuff coming out of this kitchen going. Because without you, we come to a grinding halt. This has been a Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sanur with Dogette Bandita, feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka in spirit. But if all goes well, she should be back here on the 20th. And right now here, it's the 7th, in the evening of the 7th. Because they just reduced the quarantine here from 10 days to 7 days. And ain't nobody get in without doing that. In fact, mainly ain't nobody get in. There's no tourists getting in. I think there are some people who want to spend a lot of money coming on business visas, but I don't know how much of that there is now. They've done a good job keeping COVID out. And tomorrow night, I think we will have another discussion with Dr. Raya. And see what she has to say about the current state of that here. Anyway, so we're here, as I said, with Dogette Bandita, feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka, sort of. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.